Brought to you by
March.
Yes. All right, hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to the March 22nd Penfield Planning Board work session. Allison, please call the roll.
Hetzke.
Here.
Knauer.
Here.
Tidings.
Here.
Burton.
Here.
Nersinger.
Here.
Sangster.
Here.
O'Connor.
Here.
Weissar.
Here.
Okay.
We don't have minutes.
We don't have minutes.
Don't have minutes. No minutes. Minutes are not yet prepared from the March 8th meeting. We'll have those ready for the meeting on the 12th of April.
All righty. Next item, we got Bayview Landing. Anything new?
No action on that this evening.
Okay. Zach, you want to go
Keep
through
on
the
going?
agenda?
All right then. Our second tabled application of the evening is for India Community Center. Last time the board met. Sorry, yes, thank you. Before I talk anymore.
Is there anything to report on this case? Should I recuse myself?
Yes.
Please, for the moment. Thank you.
Mr. Burton, for the record, is recusing himself from discussion of the next item.
And I'm back. All right. From the last meeting on the 8th, the board directed staff to prepare a draft approval resolution for the request to build a new activities building on the property under site plan approval. It also requires an expansion to their existing conditional use permit. That draft approval resolution has been prepared for the board. It was sent out earlier this week. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to take a look at that. AJ, you are the lead on this application. Are there any other concerns you have regarding this application that we can help answer, or?
You guys have any issues or
No,
concerns?
yours are answered. I know you had a lot of concerns.
Yeah. And Pete reviewed it, and you're comfortable with
The resolution?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so based on that, I guess I'll move to approve.
We'll take the EAF first.
Sure.
Okay.
I will second.
Hetzke.
Aye.
Knauer.
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
All right, so I'll move to approve the draft resolution.
I will second.
Hetzke.
Aye.
Knauer.
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
All right,
Okay.
so that's good.
That concludes that application. All set. We'll be in touch with follow-up, okay?
You got a copy?
Not yet, because it's not stamped.
No. See a copy or?
Yeah, you can show her if you've got a draft.
No, I'll take it. So I'll take a quick scan of it.
Hang on, look.
Thank you.
Oh, my favorite one.
Okay. Creek Street?
Yes, our next table application, 1698 Creek Street, the Capstone subdivision. Let's see here. Since the board last met, the applicant has met with staff regarding the PRC comments and some follow-up from the public hearing that took place on the 8th. Important note, I guess, out of that conversation, and they're working on the revised site plans right now. The proposed cul-de-sac layout was revised to remove the landscaped island that was originally proposed. That was a result of concerns from our highway department and staff regarding snow maintenance during those winter times and inclement weather. We've had issues in the past of some vehicles getting stuck in those. Which kind of creates a maintenance issue for us at times. So that has been removed from the plan. They are still moving forward with the landscaped divided entrance that is shown on the plan. Just in a recent conversation I had with the applicant, it sounds like the county has no objections to it. Staff will just ask for confirmation of that in writing. That is, Creek Street is a county road. We don't have jurisdiction there. It's their entrance, so they get to say yes or no to what's there. But there are no alarming concerns right now from that divided entrance. Other parts of the plan that are going to be revised, as you see in the comments, is that they're going to pull back some of the limits, some of the clearing limits around the homes that are proposed to allow for better drainage. Staff had concerns about that in the PRC memo, so that's being addressed. Everything else that they provided in their responses, staff has reviewed and we're all comfortable with their responses. So, in response to all that, we did prepare a draft approval and a draft EAF. Before the board takes any actions, I'll open it up to any additional questions or concerns about the application.
I don't have any concerns. I'd like to see the revised site plan before we move to approve.
Okay. We can do that.
They're changing the clearing lines, they're changing the setbacks. I think we should just take a peek at that before we go on record to approve. Otherwise, I have no objections.
Okay, so we want to table, well, we could do the EAF right now, right?
We can, it's up to you.
I'll move to approve the,
We can do the EAF
Authorize
now,
me to
yeah.
sign the EAF.
I will second.
Okay. Hetzke,
Aye.
Burton,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
Tidings,
Aye.
And I move to approve that, or to continue to table the application until we receive the revised site plan. I'll second.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Burton,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
Tidings,
Aye.
Alrighty, so hopefully get that taken care of for the next meeting.
Yep. All right, so we'll meet again on the 12th for that. Next one, we have the Penfield storage application, 1677 Penfield Road in 10 Plaza Circle. Let's see here. Bill is just want to note that Bill is the lead on this, so someone else will have to just take the reins for him tonight. They have provided, at the meeting on the 8th, they did provide us with responses to the PRC memo and revised site plans. Since then, they have revised the site plans once more to shorten up Building 1 on these plans. It has reduced the building in 10 feet in its overall length, allowing a better turning radius to the one-way access drive. That was kind of one of our final concerns with the project, with regards to sufficient access around the buildings, both for, customers who are trying to access that, as well as emergency vehicles. The fire marshal and the fire chief have both reviewed the plans. They have no issues with regards to accessibility to the site. Their responses to comments, based on the tabling resolution from the meeting on the 8th, did break down the colors and material choices for the buildings, which included their drive-it brick product with gatehouse gray, light gray fiber cements, other gray tones that we've seen in the elevations, basically a mixture of light and dark grays. All those colors have been identified, as well as the building material types. And as far as everything else goes with that project, we had no other concerns. So again, in response to that, we have prepared a draft approval resolution as well as a draft EAF as well. I see a question.
Yeah, so in the draft approval resolution, with respect to the materials and colors and compatibility with the other things that we've approved, it suggested that signature on the site plan by the chairman of the planning board would serve as satisfactory compliance with that. Just seems appropriate because we didn't follow through with that to say subject to verification in the field or something along those lines. Given the couple of things that have happened in other projects in the past 2 years with deviations from what we thought we were approving in terms of color and texture and
Right. And
So-
we've addressed, and since then, we've revised one of the conditions in the approval resolution stating that if there is any deviation from those plans, it is required to have planning board approval prior to making any of that, and there are consequences if you do not
It's just
stick
this
to the
one,
approved plans.
this one jumped out at me as suggesting that a signature on the Mylar is
Shouldn't.
satisfactory evidence without actually seeing what happens.
Yeah,
So,
that's a
you
good
know,
point.
at least,
Yeah.
it gives staff an opportunity to verify things in the field a year from now or what have you.
And before we move too far, the applicant
We
is
have
here
some
now with
samples.
some building material samples. And I'll take a brief pause while Spencer takes a moment to get himself set up.
Sorry, guys.
No problem, we were moving along today. So I just
So what's that?
I briefed the board on the project updates, Spencer, about the site plan changes, and we're just
That's-
arriving at the building materials.
Okay.
That's the big storage building?
Yes, so this is the big storage, this is not the color. This is the only one we had around our shop.
Okay.
I have the 3 color samples here. So there's 2 different gray colors. As we discussed, there's a darker gray, I can pull these out if you'd like. Light gray, and then the blue trim color.
That's the band.
Correct. Yep, along the gutter and then around the windows and
The feature
stuff.
strip,
Yep, yep. And this is the, as I was mentioning last time, this is the semi-concealed fastener siding. So obviously you can probably all see all the fasteners right now.
Right.
But as soon as you get on a skew, you don't pick up the fasteners because they're hidden in the low ribs.
Semi-concealed. And then glare.
And then the front building, it works amazing well. We just put it on our own shop. And as soon as you get on a slight angle, you really don't. It's kind of amazing how it works. And then these are the 2 samples from the front building, which we brought you guys before. And these are unchanged on the front building.
Okay.
Okay.
Any thoughts, comments?
Thank you, Spencer.
No problem, sorry I'm late.
No worries.
I have no concerns.
Jerry?
No, I agree with Bill on this one. No.
I think Bill would be pleased, yeah.
Think Bill would be pleased? In Bill's absence, I think he would be pleased. Okay. So, do we want to move forward with the resolution?
I think we do.
Somebody want to?
We have the EAF first to act on.
I move to approve the EAF.
I'll second it.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Burton,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
All right. Resolution?
I move to approve the
Draft
the resolution as
And-
drafted, subject to the one modification
Yeah.
Yep.
previously discussed.
I second that.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Burton,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. All set, Spencer, I'll
Thank you,
follow up,
gentlemen. I
okay?
apologize for my tardiness.
Good timing, you got it.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. All right. Moving on, we have a number of action items this evening on the agenda. The first one is for the Super Walmart at 1990 Brandt Point Drive in the Baytown Plaza. Walmart and their architects have come to us with a request to do some minor modifications to the parking on the site. So can you go back to the site plan first? Thank you. They're looking to begin offering their pickup service for the grocery market. So you put an order in ahead of time, drive up and pick up whatever your order is. Staff brings it out to your car, loads it under a proposed canopy parking area. There's the canopy. The parking area is highlighted here on the map. It's on the south side of the building. They would restripe it a little wider to allow for the canopies and the cars to park there. The result of that is they actually lose a parking spot there, but they would gain one back in the main parking area by removing half of a shopping cart corral, and that's being identified here. Other improvements
So in
include-
this drawing, north is to the left.
Correct. Other improvements would include wayfinding signage and a new building-mounted sign indicating pickup with the Walmart logo, The additional signs that don't meet code would require a special permit for signage. The applicants are aware of that, and we'll have to work with the building and zoning department on that. But they're here before the board for a site plan modification with regards to the parking layout and the canopy.
So have you identified that they need a variance from the
Yes,
ZBA?
they will.
So-
One for the building mounted sign. And until they submit a full sign package for building department's review, some of the wayfinding signs may or may not either need to be adjusted to comply with code.
If they count.
Correct.
So does staff have any issue with this modification?
No.
So you're looking for the planning board to recommend a referral letter to the ZBA indicating our support of this application?
We could include it with a future application, certainly. Obviously, in these situations, we would send, if the board is supportive of the site plan modification, the first act would be to
Approve that.
approve the site plan modification per these plans based on the original plans that are
Subject
approved.
to,
And subject to, and then part of that would be subject to, well, really, the board doesn't have a whole lot in the signage department. I should note that the colors proposed for the signage are consistent with what's on the building today.
I was gonna ask that.
What about the
So it's
canopy and
same.
everything? Is there any colored renderings submitted or anything like that?
I don't think so.
I do not know of the color. They are in the audience tonight if you'd like to ask the question.
Paul or?
Perry's the
Perry.
architect.
Okay.
Perry Patrol, architect for the Walmart project. So the canopy structure itself, the frame and the columns are orange, and the fabric canopy is an off-white. It's kind of a taupey color.
How's it gonna play out with the existing build?
have you asked Home Depot if they're okay with that?
The reason the canopy is orange is it matches
The
basically.
posts are orange, the canopy's white, you
The
said.
canopy's white, but the structure itself is orange, and then the whole canopy is an off-white. The reason for the columns and the structure of the canopy being orange, it ties in with their pickup signage, which is also orange. It's a consistent theme throughout the whole process.
What year was there? What year was
All
Walmart
this?
approved? Yeah. 15. 15, I think it was 15.
15 was the site plan.
Do we have renderings available?
Wasn't, that's too soon. 14.
Let me see if I've got a color shot of that.
I just want to get what the outside.
Building elevations, town submitted. Yeah. Colors are skewed by the projector.
Yes, they are.
That's right.
A little oversaturated.
So while Perry's searching for that, I think you guys are familiar with the site plan approval that we went through, and right at the goal line, after we got approval from this board, we were going through getting ready to build the new Super Walmart. Walmart nationally wanted to rebrand all of their stores with that gray on gray, and then the pickup side of the Walmart facade was orange. That whole side corner was orange, and that elevation was brought before this board, and you folks said, no, we want to be consistent with the Baytown architecture, the theme that was developed, and that which we saw during the rezoning, and that which we approved as part of site plan approval. So you denied the modifications to go to the gray on gray with the whole pickup being orange. And we were pleased with that because we wanted this building to look like the architecture we invested in. And we looked at this application. We've been in discussion with Walmart and Petrillo Architects, and we're clearly in support of it. Walmart is above plan. They're doing well. It's fantastic for Penfield and the economy, and it's fantastic for our shopping center. We we would be supportive of the frame being orange as long as it's not overbearing and conflicting with anything. And I think the placement of it is in a location that you need to draw the patron's eye to where is the pickup location, right? So it's as you know, back behind the pharmacy in an area that you really have to be led to it. So I think the frame being orange with a white, off-white taupe canopy would be acceptable, because I know that as Walmart brands this pickup everywhere you see pickup, it's orange.
I recently saw
So
one.
it's just those key identifiers that I think they're trying to tie in without being
specific
overbearing.
photo to this shot or this store, but you can see how delicate it is in terms of a structure. There's not much of it that you're going to see in orange. And I think Paul said that perfectly, because although this is on the side of the building, we do need some recognition as to where it is so that the patrons and customers recognize where to go.
This is a freestanding moment frame structure?
It's freestanding. This is just a generic shown against the building. Ours obviously sits out forward in the parking lot, freestanding. Yes, it's totally freestanding. So that's, if you go back to the shot you had of the canopy up there, it's a thumbnail in that bottom corner, but the frame it's basically almost like a space frame. It's pretty delicate in terms of the amount of structure that is there. It's really not imposing any way, shape, or form. And you can see the directional signs that are proposed are orange also. So it's a consistent theme that basically is signed and implemented all in the orange. And again, this is something that's a national rollout. It's not specific to this store. And I think, I've got a shot here, but, the building is the precast aggregate panel, which is almost a burnt orange, if you will. But this kind of plays off of it pretty nicely in that it highlights itself, but it doesn't stand out and scream at you.
The other locations in the county, same, orange pickups?
If it's being implemented, it's going to be orange, yes.
Yeah, we just renovated Henrietta, and that store went to their national gray with the whole pickup side is orange painted block wall.
So that's the only one right now, Henrietta? Not
That's the one.
Hudson Avenue, not Greece.
I don't know. I haven't been to Greece, but I know Henrietta, we just renovated that. I was sharing this with PRC yesterday when I was there. This store was actually a candidate to be converted to pickup. They came at us right after we finished the site plan approval. They wanted to modify everything, come back in for a second round of approvals, but the plaza desperately needed the store to move forward, so we discouraged Walmart from doing it at that time. And it would have been another 6 months and we would have missed the whole opening season. It wouldn't have opened in the fall, it would have gone to the spring. So we pushed very strongly for them to table this. So it's important to them, and we'd like to help support that.
And just a little background to it, it is being rolled out across the nation. And basically the thought is it will be in every store eventually. It can't happen overnight, obviously. The goal is that every store will have, if it has grocery, it will have an online grocery pickup.
Thank you for that, guys.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thoughts?
Can you go back to the parking spot? The parking area. I can't tell, but is there or is there a need for handicap in that area?
Normal handy, other than for this,
Well,
for
for
this
that,
particular use?
for that designated use.
If I can answer that, and I don't mean to jump in. So as Zach mentioned, these spots are significantly wider than a typical spot.
Okay.
These spots are 12 feet wide, okay? If you are disabled and let's say you've got a handicap sticker or license plate, you're not getting out of your car. okay? You're just pulling into that spot. The associate is bringing out
Okay.
your water and putting it in your car. So there's,
Accessibility is not required.
yeah, you've
Yeah,
you've got
I
your
didn't know how
accessible
the
parking spaces at the
operation would-
front that
Yeah.
remain. This is specific. It's not meant for the customer to get out of the car whatsoever.
Understand. Thank you.
Well,
How do you guys feel about the colors and what are your thoughts? It's my only,
I think the smaller sign, the orange is probably fine. I was more concerned just the facade sign. But if that's, as Zach said, gonna follow the same colors,
Yeah, there's no changes to the facade for the orange, other than the lettering and logo that would go on there are proposed with, similar to what's out there today for the Walmart Superstore.
yeah.
You know, I know I can't go without saying that this town has had a history with orange. We are the only town probably in the country that, with a Home Depot, that does not have an orange awning on it. And they have come back to us several times before, and they still don't have an orange awning. Obviously, orange is a contested color. It's before my time, but I can't sit here and not...
before everyone.
I can't sit here...
Orange is in.
I can't sit here and not address it for this board.
Yeah. definitely
I don't
Without
have
hearing it
any
tomorrow.
difficulty with what they're trying to do, and as you know, I've always been in favor of allowing a company to use their national brand. It's part of what they use to brand and promote services that they offer. You know, I guess, you know, I would defer to the ZBA because, you know, if they're adding a bunch of other signs, you know, that presents a problem, and as I'm sure you guys know, there's been a number of contentious zoning board applications with respect to quantity and size of signage just within the past year. So
And for this,
that's for them to decide.
Correct.
Right, and that's something that's usually handled on the back end of site plan approval once it gets past the board, because sometimes signage needs for signage change as they go through, so they'd be fully responsible for submitting the necessary applications for their sign package following this review.
No problem.
We're good.
We're good? Okay. So we want to move,
I'll make a motion that we move to
accept
the modifications to the previously approved site plan.
I'll second it.
Hetzke,
aye.
Burton,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
Tidings.
And would the board like a letter sent to the zoning board, or just have them copied in on the site plan?
Let's have them copy.
Modification.
Just can't beat it.
Very good, we will do that.
thank you.
I'll follow up with the letter from the board. All right, Barry?
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Next.
Next up, staying in the same area, the new retail store that was approved in January by the board at 1930 Empire Boulevard that features a Verizon tenant as well as a to-be-determined second tenant is back before the board. Paul is here to represent the request for a building design modification. What you see here is what the board approved on the left, with several materials that are consistent with what's in Baytown Plaza today. They tried to carry a lot of those elements out to this, as this site is intended to be another entrance into the plaza. A lot of those same themes were carried through into this building. On the right is what's being proposed after DeMarco and Verizon continued their conversations about the building renderings. Verizon requested to have their building stand out on its own, but not take away from the work that had already been done, basically so that it wouldn't have this exact same appearance as the second tenant. So what you see before you, again on the right, is what's being proposed. A little bit, obviously, some color schemes here. Still maintaining some of the earth tones. There is a little more gray incorporated into it, especially on the headers where the signs are featured. Kind of open up to the board for a discussion, and Paul's here in the audience if there are questions.
Do you want to say anything about it? Do you
Yeah.
want
I'll give you a little background. So obviously on the left was what was approved, and when we started coordinating with Verizon to program their floor plan within that building, I sent them the building elevations, and they came back and they were very concerned that their brand is this cool gray backdrop for their sign, and that was paramount to them, that the signage backdrop needed to have this cool gray, and they were, from a corporate level, told they can no longer open stores without this cool gray backdrop. I sent Zach a copy of their store that they wanted me to mimic. It was very cold, very dark building. It was gray on grays, and it was not fitting with what we feel is the tones and what we've developed within the plaza. So tried to work with them to incorporate their brand, give the building, I think Zach said that nicely, two separate identities. There's two different tenants there. They're going to want to stand out from one another. And so what you see here is that cool gray ephes in place of what was the buff ephes before, and then inset in the where their entries are, there's a little bit lighter gray in place of what was that previous mocha ephes. So while the two elevations look strikingly different, the only thing that really changed is the ephes color from buff to cool gray for Verizon. That brick and the stone is the same. It's the Pennsylvania weather ledge we put elsewhere in the plaza, and it's that same brick that we have elsewhere in the plaza. It's just the rendering printout looks a little different. The other change that they asked is to have a front and a side entrance. So you'll notice on the image on the left that was facing Empire Boulevard. Initially we were not planning that they have an entry there. After they saw the site plan that was approved, handicap parking on that west side of the building, they said that really makes sense to have an entrance so that handicap or disabled folks don't have to travel around to the side entrance. So those are the two changes.
Okay. Comments?
I like it. I think it pops a lot better than the kind of bleached out colors that they had before.
I like it.
Yeah, it's fine to me.
Okay. Somebody want to move it?
I'll move.
I'll second it.
Who got that
The
one?
third and the second.
You guys want rock, paper, scissors for it or something?
Terry can have it.
Okay,
Let the chief
Hetzke,
go.
Aye.
Burton,
Aye.
Knauer,
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
So,
Thanks, folks.
Paul.
Have a great night.
thank you, Paul.
You too.
Good to see everybody.
Always a pleasure. We'll have the seats here for you next week. I'm sure you'll be
Sure, I'll
back.
see you soon. Hey, how are you?
All right, our third action item is for 2055 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road. It's known as a retail store project, where currently there's Don's Original and the Dunkin' Donuts on the west side of the road. A little bit of history for the board. 2010, site plans and proposed elevations were approved for this site that include a retail store, and Doug's pulling up that plan now, thank you. As you can see on the plan there, this is what was approved, but in the meantime, it was built out differently. Obviously, the parking is different there today as it is on this plan. But with the land bank parking that's shown and some that's been installed, the net difference at the end still provides sufficient parking for all the uses. They're back before the board with a request today for building design modification. Because a lot of time has passed since then. They're not looking to do the steeple-type architecture that's out there today on those two buildings. Doug's pulling that up now. We have elevations and colors of what's being proposed for the building. Obviously, some more glass, wood treatments, stone, more metal look to it. Has some blue tones in there as well. So again, the request is to build this thing out as the site plan is approved. However, the architecture is different than what was originally proposed, and they're asking for a modification to that. And just as we did with the other two, I'll open up to your discussion.
Any thoughts?
Looks nice to me.
I think it's an improvement.
Bob?
I think it looks good.
I think it's an improvement too. It makes it, ties in better with the Y, with platinum, it's,
A lot of other projects that are going on in town,
Yeah.
and the architecture that's currently there is a little dated.
I discussed with the architect, they are considering or beginning to plan some updates to the buildings that are there today. I don't know if it'll carry this look, but I think they are looking to
is that like wood
To
on the
address
top? Or what is that?
Doug, you looked at elevations as identified.
That's it here. Wood
You had
facade
it, you had it.
panel.
Is it
That one
labeled on
doesn't.
that one?
Yeah, wood facade panel.
That doesn't
Not
have
that
it
one, the other one.
on the left.
Moving so fast.
There you go. It's a wood panel.
You want Mike to take charge here?
With a copper color identified.
Yeah.
I could,
Curling stone building in black forest.
Those are really composite panels. They're not really wood.
But they look like
Wood
wood.
look.
Yeah.
With the board, I mean, we can always ask for examples and samples of the building materials that are proposed, and could revisit this at a future meeting. It is an
I think
option.
that's appropriate. That's in our factors for consideration.
I mean, obviously, I hear the board's generally supportive of it,
Yep.
but is that something the board would like to consider?
Yeah, I honestly, I'd be more concerned with the impact of parking and maneuverability around the site, because obviously Don's has expanded from their original operation, and they're doing very well, which is wonderful to see. But on any given night during
pretty crowded
good weather, it is pretty crowded. So this is going to take some of the parking away that is currently in use, and create a bit of a
It's shifting it.
bottleneck in there.
Different locations.
There is some land bank parking that hasn't been installed yet, and they would work through the town engineer
Along the
to have,
back.
yep, along the back. There's some that's there, hasn't been completely formalized yet. I believe it's more of like a gravel parking
It's
situation. as you
actually
can see.
used now. You go there on a busy
Yeah.
summer night and it's used now.
Yep.
They have
Um,
employees
I-
parked back there.
The tenants haven't been identified for the building yet. It could be one, it could be two. But however, if he is proposing more of a professional office setting, the opportunity for shared parking is there, as this is part of one complete site plan
Yeah.
application.
If however, it's retail and it's, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., it's,
Right.
might be appropriate to ask them about density and whether or not they've taken a look at the adequacy of parking with the now completed site.
I did not ask that question of them. I did ask for them to confirm that the lighting on the site won't change, and they did confirm that lighting will stay as it is out there today. If the board's not ready to make a decision, we can ask that question of them if they anticipate any needs for additional parking or what their idea is for tenants and how to manage parking. I mean, again, this is an approved
That's
site
an
plan.
approved site plan.
So I don't think we can dive too deep into it. I agree with your concern about that. But it is, you know, compared to today, it is shifting the parking. It's doing a 90-degree with it, moving some of it towards the back where it is now,
Yeah.
where the building is. And again, taking advantage of more of the land bank parking that hasn't been installed yet. That's all I have.
Other thoughts?
Want me to table it just to look at the samples and stuff then? Is that the thought process?
Unless you're good with what's on the
No.
elevations.
As long as they're not... I'll go with what you guys want to do. I mean, I'm
I think
ambivalent.
it's appropriate to see the
Yeah, I'd
samples.
just kind of like to see what.
Okay,
Especially after around the corner.
yeah. Well, I agree with that.
Make sure.
Okay. You don't need to take a vote on that. This isn't a miscellaneous item. We'll get back to them. We'll keep it on the agenda for the next meeting as an action item, and have them provide building material samples and colors for the board's review.
Okay.
Okay? Let's see, what else I got? Our fourth action item is for a recently discussed sketch plan application for the Heritage Christian Services Daycare that was proposed at 2730 Atlantic Avenue at the intersection of Atlantic and Scribner. The board heard this as a sketch plan, I believe back in September of last year. And part of that sketch plan was the board had concerns for the size of the building, and asked for a lot of support, additional data from other facilities that Heritage Christian currently operates today that is similar to how this will be. One was in,
We looked at this.
well, huh?
Was it that long ago we looked at this?
A while ago. A while ago. I had to do some digging.
Should say about a month ago, 2 months ago.
Beginning of February,
Yeah, it was,
maybe?
Whoa, not September.
February?
Wow. Wow.
I was gonna say.
We can edit that out.
What happened with all that?
We can edit that out. So back in February, sorry about that, gentlemen. We did talk about this. Bring that back in. Wow, it's been a day. Originally, they were proposing a 12,000 square foot new building on the site, while maintaining the existing home on the site, which is approximately 3,500 square feet for the child care center, along with the playground area and the associated site improvements for parking and stormwater. The board had concerns about the size of that building. They were proposing the max number of students that's allowed under the code for child care facilities. So again, there were concerns for the size of the project. There were concerns for traffic, tree preservation. The board was asking for information from other projects that they have done, their site selection process, and any responses to their PRC comments that were issued as part of the sketch plan. So what was provided for you tonight was a response letter addressing the concerns that were captured in the sketch letter. We have a revised site plan that shows a 9,800 square foot new facility that would be built on the site, along with maintaining the existing structure that's there to convert that residence to part of the child care facility. We have a letter from a tree survey that was done on the property. Looks like it was done on February 17th of this year by Heinrich Fischer, a landscape architect. It was provided to Marathon Engineering and was submitted with this round of materials. Part of that survey did note that there's a lot of dead material in there. Several of the trees have reached their maturity. Some of them, many of them are in poor health. Some of them are on the list of those infected trees such as that are subject to the emerald ash borer, so on and so forth. So there was not a strong recommendation from the tree survey to work around a lot of those trees that are there today. Again, it's on kind of the western half of the property, to try and preserve them, rather use the land, use the proposed project to create a new landscape environment there. They also have provided correspondence from the New York State DOT regarding the relocation of the curb cut on Atlantic. DOT had very little to no concerns about this. In their email, the relocation would have little to no negative impact, as it's stated in their email. They also discussed the project with the DOT, and DOT at this time hasn't expressed any concerns for the proposed daycare facility there. With regards to traffic, they did provide a parking count, a traffic analysis from their Greece location as well as their Henrietta location that offer similar services. That's included in the packet, along with the site plan of the Greece location that was approved and is open and operating now. And as I stated before, the board had made requests about what other sites were reviewed during the site selection process for the applicant. That information was also provided. One thing that was not discussed during the sketch plan application, and one thing I'd like to point out for the board, is that this facility is intended to offer services for children that are really of that, in that pre-K range of education, where it's either a mix of full-day, half-day services. And in their response letter, they indicate, bless you, they indicate that their experience from the other facilities is that approximately 20 or less students in total will actually need bus service to the elementary schools in the Penfield School District. And based on that, there was concerns about the bus traffic coming in, about the arrival of parents dropping their children off in time for school, so on and so forth. I think that piece of information is important to know with regards to what's expected for bus service to this proposed project, based on the students they tend to have, that they anticipate to have there at the facility. Sorry, that was a lot of information, but the highlights are the building was reduced by approximately 2,000 square feet, again from 12,000 down to 9,800. The playground area was slightly reduced. Parking is sufficient for what they're proposing based on code. They would need 42 under code. They're proposing 42 under the modified site plan. They would still need some area variances for setbacks under the code. And again, this letter is here for the board to discuss, review, and their request is to be considered for a preliminary final application with the board's, following board discussion and input on these responses.
Somebody explain this traffic study to me. The total cars
Total cars,
on the Greece. So if you have, let's say, 7:15 to 7:30, says 8 parents and 1 teacher, for a total of 20 cars.
I believe there's overlap there based on the drop-off time. That I don't have the answer to that, and they are in the audience tonight if you want that specific question about this.
Yeah.
What it was, we were trying to establish, over in Grace, they asked us to have,
Do you mind if I ask you guys just to move up a couple rows so you're captured on the microphones better?
Come up to the table, or you want us to stay back here?
You can.
Dan Stewart with Heritage Christian Services.
Over in Grace, what they were asking for was to increase the number of parking spaces, and what we were trying to show was the number of total spaces that we were going to need throughout the day. So as you can go by that, 7 people in, and then the people that had stayed there, parents are going to come and go, but that was the total number of spots that were being used to.
So the total cars was really parking spots occupied,
Correct.
not in and out of the site?
Correct.
Okay. That explains. And then the Henrietta one does not, that's just the total number of cars in and out?
Correct. There we have shared parking with the Peter Stanley Life Center, so we've got an upside of 100+ parking spaces there.
Okay. All right, thanks. Okay.
Just default the site plan.
Sure.
You got, thank you, Doug. So we have the site plan on the screen, showing the reduced footprint, kind of a larger sidewalk area in the front. They did confirm that the bus pickup drop-off location would be in front of the building, where students would be escorted out by the teachers, by the staff, when the buses arrive. By shifting the building around, they've brought it down further away from the property line to the school. They've brought it further to the east, allowing more additional room for stormwater management, and they're showing proposed landscaping with a mix of trees and shrubs out at the road on Scribner. Obviously, more landscaping would have to be done with the preliminary final application, but this is showing the intent for and the opportunity for additional landscaping. Obviously, with the removal of the trees that would be needed for this project.
Okay. Comments? Aaron?
Did our landscaping, look at their landscaping letters and stuff? Did you take a look at that?
No, Bruce has not had a chance to look at the tree survey.
Yeah, I'd like to get his take on next, take a look at that. So how many variances do they need right now? If it went to this, should we plan it right now?
Wrong sheet. Based on this, they would still need a variance for the building size. Again, our code requires, the code only allows for a max building size of 8,000 square feet. Minimum lot area, our code requires 5-acre minimum lot size for child care facilities. There's a history of child care facilities in the town that do not have 5 acres, so that wouldn't be uncommon for the board to grant that. Parking spaces they meet. What else do we need? Setback to residential they would need.
And right now they intend on leaving the existing house up.
Yes.
Yeah, I get this. Yes.
So some setback variances, building size, and lot size.
I'd like to see Bruce take a look at it first of all. DOT didn't have any problems with it. I go by there every day. Traffic is backed up there. I don't see how they're not going to have any impact on traffic at that location. When they put their driveway in there, I mean, you know, it's going to have an impact. I mean, they're backed up to the school parking lot in the morning, probably for at least an hour or 2 hour period for whatever time. I mean, I don't know whether, you know, how it will have an impact on it. I don't know how they're going to use the driveway on Atlantic Avenue either. I haven't really taken a look at that. I'm talking about on Scribner Road. I mean, there's no way, I mean, they're just backed up, and they're not even there yet. I don't think it fits in with that area. I think it's too large. I'm not in favor of it at all. There's nothing, as far as I can see, similar to this in the area. I mean, you know, we just acquired Shadow Pines to the other corner. The corner on the other side, on the opposite side of the street, is still part of Dolomite, I believe. The big farmhouse that's similar to the one that's on this parcel, and the other corner just sold. I assume it's somebody's moving in there. You know, it's still residential except the church and the school to the north. The project's, I think, too big for that location, so I think there's a lot of questions to be answered before, you know, I just don't want to see them to throw the money at a project that I'm not really looking too favorable on right now, so that's where I stand on that.
Okay.
The variance for two residential, where did that, where was the conflict?
Basically, in the code, there's because this is all zoned residential,
Yes.
the use requires, I forgot the number off the top of my head, but it requires a setback variance from edge of parking as a buffer to residential. Now in this corner, your adjacent properties are the church and the school. When you have to look at that variance, there isn't a single family home on its borders that touch it.
Except across the street and back out across Scribner.
That has the distance because the road's there. You're gonna find it in the child care section, child care facility. It goes above and beyond residential code. And of course, that one's spelled out. Minimum 100-foot buffer to any adjacent residential property lines.
Okay.
And that's something that you see because if a property were to have 5 acres, then 100 feet is something that is certainly manageable for a project. So that is, again, another instance, just like with these other facilities that we have in town that are less than 5 acres, where that is something that has to be reviewed and has been granted before.
Yeah, I agree. I think the project, even with, you know, the 18% reduction is still, it's too intense for this site, considering the traffic in the area.
Jim?
Yeah, I have a concern about traffic as well. You know, these types of facilities, parents are hustling to get their kids in and rush off to the work, and you know, I don't see any dedicated bus lanes. I don't see any proposals for, you know, right in, right out, you know, things that would result in some traffic calming. And I think to Terry's point, and he said this from the beginning, you know, we really need a TIS here, but that is a big expense, a traffic impact statement.
Something that would come along with the preliminary final application.
Yeah,
It's not
you know,
typically seen here.
in order to really weigh, you know, how this plays, I also think that, you know, maybe we get some feedback from the school district. You know, maybe this use in close proximity to public elementary schools is something that they see as a benefit to their student population and the parents. Maybe that would, you know, weigh favorably against the potential for traffic impact. You know, maybe they'd be interested in seeing, you know, whether or not some traffic calming features, you know, might help them to ease, you know, what Terry sees on a regular basis as a, you know, traffic backup. So I think that would be helpful to get some feedback from the school district.
Their letter did indicate they have reached out to the school district,
I
but
saw
haven't gotten a response. That's something staff, if the board wants staff to do that, we can do that as well. Maybe they respond to us better, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Couple things from my standpoint. I understand everybody's concerns with the size on the surface. To me, it does seem intense. That said, on the one hand, if you picture yourself as a parent with potentially kids going to Scribner and or Bay Trail, you know, more and more parents drop their kids off at school. So if they're dropping, you know, one kid off at the daycare and then two kids off at the school, they're on the way. Is that really adding any traffic to what's there today?
That would be good to know.
The second thing is, I mean, I don't take Atlantic Ave, I'm a 441 guy. And 441 has Penfield Village Nursery School and that, whatever that, what's it called?
Peapod?
Peapods, on opposite sides of the street. So, you know, Penfield Village is on the north side and Peapod's on the south side. When I look at Penfield Village, at least, is set up a little more with a drive-in aisle and a drive-out aisle. Peapod's is, you know, it's like going into the Mexican restaurant. And there doesn't seem to be, you know, a catastrophic problem there.
That's 4-lane versus 2-lane.
It's not even close to
It's
comparison.
fair. That said, in the morning, if you're dropping off, most people are making a left out onto 441 across 4 lanes of traffic after they drop their kid off. Here, they'd be making a right. So,
Well,
to me, that's just, it's something
We'd
to
have to see,
consider.
but if you look at a bus loop on a typical public or private elementary school, you see bus lanes only. So the doors to a bus are on the right side, so the buses come in the loop, and I don't see here even a bus lane to allow for other traffic, other buses to pass or other vehicles to pass. And generally speaking, in the design of, you know, public schools, those lanes would be limited to buses only and no other private vehicles, just for protection and safety of the kids. They're a little tight here, I think, to be able to do that. So, you know, I think, you know, that all kind of plays into the concern about, you know, traffic and bottlenecking and maybe getting some more information.
I don't want to compare us to Greece, but would you like to look at the plan that they have at Greece that's similar to this, that is up and operational there? They did provide that, or?
Yeah, I went out there and looked at it. Yeah, I went out and looked at it.
I was going to say, would you like to pull a site plan up just to look at it in terms of how they operate that site versus this?
Well, I don't, it doesn't even compare as far as traffic to Atlantic Avenue to begin with. That's the only thing I can say, but I wasn't there at the peak and non-peak hours that I do at Atlantic and Scribner. But knowing that part of Stone Road, where it is, I don't think it would be even come close to comparison to what we'll, you know, have it in Atlantic and Scribner. It's not that close.
I do want to just point out in the letter, they did provide some traffic counts for those areas where they compared Stone to Atlantic, not Scribner. Where Stone sees an average of 9,600 vehicles a day.
Yeah.
And then versus an average of 10,500 on Atlantic.
Okay.
So not too far off, but
No, that's
you're
all
right.
day traffic, but I'm talking about the
Yeah.
peak times
Yeah.
when they're trying to get in and
there's
out.
a school there too on
Right.
Scribner. That's
Right.
there, you can't ignore it.
Right, yeah.
I think a lot of it is driven by the traffic of the parents just dropping off the kids for the services there. Again, this isn't set in stone, but compared to the 135 kids they're proposing to have there and anticipating maybe 20, give or take, would actually need bus service. I think that does play a role as well. I'm just throwing it out there so we don't get hung up on how many buses are coming there, because you're not getting all the buses in the district to go there just to take them to the schools.
That's true.
Is there additional information you'd like to see, I guess?
Well, I think we just laid that out there, you know.
I heard the buses, I heard input from the school district about the use. I heard, Terry, you'd like Bruce to take a look at the tree survey for his opinion as our landscape consultant.
A little more detail about how they intend to manage the traffic flow coming into and/or out of the two streets that the parcel abuts, and how they intend to protect.
When you say that, are you thinking, all right, out of, let's just call it 100 cars, how many are going to come in southbound off Scribner, make a left, exit out onto Atlantic, like that type of?
No, I'd like to hear
or-
how they view where the traffic is going to come from. We've had other projects where we asked the applicant to entertain, or we made a condition that it would be right in only on one side and right out only on the other side, and things of that nature. You know, if there was, like you pulled up that other site plan that they have in Greece, which is kind of typical, so they've got parking out front, and then there's a bus lane behind there, and then there's a pedestrian access to go from the parking area into the facility. So that would be pretty typical. Here, we only have that one drive lane. Is that intended to be two-way traffic? Is it intended to allow parents to drive around buses? You know, those are the kinds of things that I would like to see, and maybe getting some feedback from the school district. If they perceive this as being a benefit or a detriment, you know, we take that information and you know, share it with the applicants and see if they can't modify their plan accordingly. I mean, I'm willing to give this thing a chance to get legs, but I think maybe some more information would be in order.
Okay. So what's our,
I want to ask one other question. You want to see some details about, I guess, programming schedule?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I think they know now with their other facilities, based on when they're open, you know, kind of what times they typically would expect, you know, different age groups to come in and parents to come in and leave and pick up kids and things like that.
Yeah, 'cause
so I think
The parking
we have
numbers
that.
shown on their parking count indicate kind of almost a steady flow of traffic throughout the hours, because, you know, maybe kids are in there for a 3-hour period, 2-hour period, full day period, depending on the age and the service. I didn't know if having that information for the board to understand, you know, yes, we have a 3-hour program, we have a 2-hour, we have these different programs where it spreads traffic out.
I guess ideally, I'm asking the applicant to tell us, give us some directional arrows and some dimensions and you know, some delineation on the pavement, how they intend
Site
to see
coordination.
the traffic flow in and out of the site.
yeah, I think a lot of that would come with preliminary and final.
It would, but at this point, if-
So the question is, if the applicant is going to put those resources into it, is there, like, is there support from the board, like, is there a plan that you could conceive that would be an approvable plan for the three of you in any way, shape, or form before we ask them to spend another dime, actually?
So I guess if a TIS showed that they could pass muster through a seeker review, then that would take care of the overall traffic impact. If we got feedback from the school district that, you know, they would support this is a benefit, you know, they don't see a conflict or anything, they would probably be interested in seeing the TIS, you know, then that might satisfy that, and then, you know, we have something more to go on. But, you know, I hate to ask an applicant to do or not do anything based on, you know, where they are and, you know, where they'd like to go, or if they have other, you know, other sites that they'd like to pursue or whatever. I, for one, based on the outcome of that additional information, could conceivably support this through a final approval resolution if the information came back that wasn't detrimental to, you know, environmental impact and impact on the community.
Yeah, sure.
In my time, I don't know, I haven't seen any applications that have, before coming in for prelim, have asked for kind of an initial traffic impact study. Have you seen that before between sketch and prelim where that's done, or you've seen them more as all in preliminary final to that level of engineering? I just don't know if you as a board member who has the
From what
longest
I've
standing.
seen, it's more at the preliminary final stage.
And that's what I
expect.
expected.
Sketch.
You know, the only difference, guys, is that if we take them to that level, there's a lot more information and engineering and documentation necessary to submit with a preliminary final. So
Correct.
I think maybe you want to ask the applicant if
Well,
they're willing to go.
that's my point. My point is there, you know, I'm hearing a lot of concerns about the density of the project, the use,
Traffic, everything, yeah.
traffic, and is it the type of thing that if, okay, they go through all that, is it still, hey, you know what, I don't want to see it no matter what it is? And that's, I guess that's my question,
That would-
because
that would
I'd
have to be
rather
my
just say, hey, you know what? We're not in favor of this. The board is not going to approve it, no matter what you come in with.
That's the purpose of
I
this
guess
phase.
that's what I'm
That would not be my
I'm
position,
interested to.
AJ. I conceivably could see a final approval on this, conceivably.
Terry?
If they address the concerns, I'm not gonna say completely out. You know, I think if they address all these concerns, you know, I'm still open-minded to it, you know. I mean, they're a good organization. I'm familiar with their organization. You know, I just, let's get on the board. We've discussed for last few times we've discussed it, you know, well, you know, like, well, we don't want to waste their money in a sketch plan. That's how this all came to be. Okay, so here we are. It's like, yeah. So they have to decide if they're wasting their money with these questions, I guess, to proceed from this point. No, I'm not, never close-minded to anything, you know, but,
And I think really what I'm hearing is it's really just coming down to traffic impact. Everything else is ancillary to that.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know if there's an opportunity with the neighboring properties, if it's even in the realm to have, and to what extent it would help to have any cross-access. The school to this property to the church. You know, at this point, I don't know how that would, unless maybe the inside design was changed, how it would maybe help the traffic flow.
Okay.
Well, maybe those are some things that they might pursue should the outcome of the next round of data show that they have some challenges to overcome. And that's certainly something that's been a common denominator in Penfield for 40 years. Having service roads that got traffic off the main artery
Right.
quickly and allowed access to various facilities.
For all our non-commercial,
Just
for our
well for
non-residential
us.
uses.
Yeah, and I don't know how that would play with the school district, but unless the applicant, I guess,
School district isn't likely to go there.
They have
because
a, they have
their
a
own-
stormwater management facility there between the two.
And they have their own
driveway.
security
Yeah.
issues, but, you know, the church might.
the church might, yeah.
So what I'm hearing based on all of that is the board has said what it has to say about the proposal, traffic being the primary concern for the intersection and what impact this use may have to it, which can only be determined with a traffic impact study through a preliminary final application. So we can kick this, based on this discussion, put the ball back in the applicant's court.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with what you just said. You can certainly ask the applicant if they're willing during this stage of approval to provide traffic impact statement and not go through all the other tasks and documentation level required of a preliminary final application.
Okay. Would you
So
like,
I guess what I'm suggesting is there might be a way for them to take baby steps so that we know as a board whether this is something that we can support, and they know without taking great steps and spending significant amounts of money whether or not this is going to work for them.
so I'll retract what I just said and give the applicant direction to gather the data, prepare a traffic impact statement. And it's in a preliminary form or with as much data as available without going to a full-blown site plan package. Provide that data to the board about what impacts may come based on that study.
And then have staff
And have us
contact
revisit this.
the school district
Okay.
and find out, you know, whether or not they see this as a benefit to their, the parents that have students in those two schools.
Okay, thank you for that. The traffic, school district, and Terry, I'll reiterate the tree study, the tree survey, have yours take a look at that as well.
Well, my most concern is the traffic, but
Yeah.
yeah, we should look at that.
I know.
You know, the school, I mean, and then they still gotta get all the variances, so, you know, yeah, I mean, that's all I need.
Okay. We sent a letter already, right?
I sent a sketch letter, but not to that detail of what Jim just discussed about preparing and providing
What's
traffic
our
impact statement.
next, I mean, this is a response to the sketch letter?
Yep.
Is this information, so we,
Providing
we should
direction
submit
back.
another letter back?
Yeah, we would send a letter capturing the board's discussion tonight
Right.
with that direction, and invite them back to another work session to review that when they're ready. Again, to avoid having them completely submit or completely commit to a preliminary final application, but get that traffic data to us ahead of time to see if it's truly feasible.
Okay. All right.
Sound fair?
Somebody want to move it?
Make a motion, we'll table it.
Well,
Or it's
send the
not-
letter.
It's not an
Send a letter, yeah,
action.
yeah, the letter, okay.
I will second.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Burton,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
Okay,
All right.
thank you guys. We have one new business item before we wrap up. Find my letter for it. Bay Vista Taqueria, at 1205 Bay Road. The board previously approved a parking expansion and an outdoor dining deck to the property for the business, and that was approved back in May of last year in anticipation of preparing to go to site construction this summer. Their one-year approval will run out before they start that. So to get ahead of that, they've come back and requested a 180-day extension to the site plan approval for exactly what was approved before. Would you like to see a site plan or anything?
No brainer to me.
No.
It's fine, somebody want to move it?
So moved.
Second.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Burton,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
Okay. Anything else?
The other thing you would have received with this meeting is
April
a
12th.
list of the applications and the board assignments for the April 12th public hearing. There are seven applications for that, 2 sketch plan applications, 5 preliminary final public hearing items. All those have been assigned, and wanted to get that to you in ahead of time before the meeting, just to provide you the time to take a look at them, and if there are any questions, please let us know. But yeah, that's what we have coming up for April.
All right. That said, no further business. We will adjourn. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you.